This is Karen with the Writer's Edge. I am so excited to be here this evening with you all to talk about a couple of my favorite rugby colleges and have the coaches on here to chat with you a little bit about their programs, about their schools, and just hopefully get some of the student athletes that are out there that are looking for this type of school a little more insight into what's available. You know, I think all of us who are in the rugby community, you know, there tends to be a pretty common theme that some students kind of start off with pretty typical list of schools that they've heard of, and then they might be really missing out on some gems. And that's part of the reason I wanted to do this specific webinar with these three programs, just to kind of share out with with the students and families out there, like what amazing opportunities you have to play at some really high level rugby programs, and also very difficult, tough academic schools, which I think many students are looking for. So what we're going to do is, I think, just to kind of start things off, and maybe we'll start with Coach Wollen, we'll go to Coach Brown, and then we'll go to Coach Chapman. If you all just want to, for now, just introduce yourself, and then also introduce what program you're with, and then maybe a little bit of your background, and then we'll kind of jump into some questions, and we'll kind of see how that goes. So yeah, over
Awesome.
to you, Coach Wollen. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Karen. Yep, my name is Evan Wollen. I am the Director of Women's Rugby at the Claremont Colleges, which are probably unique in the American educational landscape in that it's 5 colleges on one campus, but they're 5 separate institutions, and we have players from all 5 of them. My background is, as many Americans, I started playing rugby as a freshman in college, and then I was lucky enough to be in the Army, and every Army post had a team. And then when it was time for me to stop playing, I found myself at a place where they had a women's rugby team at Army, and we just were talking before the session about Tony's helping start that program. And then afterwards, I got here in 2012, and I've been here for about 10 years with the women's rugby program here at the Claremont Colleges.
Great. Coach Brown, over to you.
Well, thanks for organizing this, Karen, and greetings to everyone. I'm at Vassar College. I'm almost embarrassed to say this is my 27th year. I think the students keep me young. We have a great team culture. I played in the UK, I played in the States, but I've been coaching longer than I played now, so I've forgotten what that was like. And as Evan said, I've been involved in this area in New York with the colleges, running the Tri-State and what was the Met New York Conference. So I pretty much know the Northeast pretty well, having played just about every team in the Northeast at one time or another, either at a tournament or at sevens or in league play. And yeah, now Army's this Leviathan. It's gone varsity, and it's got a $10 million facility, and I'm like, geez, they didn't hire me. No. It's great. I'm really glad. I'm just glad there's a good rugby program there. It's a great facility. So.
Yeah, great. And then Coach Chapman, over to you.
Thank you. And again, echo Tony's gratefulness. Thank you very much for putting this together, Karen. So I'm David Chapman. I coach Colgate. I've been here for 10 years. I first took over the men in 2013 and was helping Emery Lamal Brown. She was coaching the women's team, and then in 2017 took over the women's team. So I coach, I'm the director of rugby, and I'm the head coach of both as well. So I played my rugby at the University of Mississippi a long time ago. I am younger than Coach Brown. Sorry to put you on the spot there. But ultimately fell in love with the sport and try to provide that perspective, that love and that passion that I once, or that I still feel for the game, but try to inject that in my coaching. We also have 3 young ladies here that they handle our recruiting process, and we're gonna skip around and introduce them for 30 seconds.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sophie. I'm a senior. I'm a psychology major and an education studies minor. Basically, many people on here. I started playing freshman year of college, and I've stuck it out for 4 years. I've loved every second of it, and I think Coach Chapman does a great job making a great community and a great program. And so I absolutely fell in love with the sport, and just hope more and more high schoolers can start coming into the program.
Great.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a junior and I'm a biochemistry major. Rugby has literally been my driving force through college. I'm really happy that I got the experience, especially with Chapman and all our amazing community. And I'm really excited to share like our perspectives for you guys on any questions you have on what it's like to play rugby in college.
Hi, I'm Ellie. I'm a sophomore. I'm majoring in astrophysics and computer science. And I started playing rugby in high school and absolutely loved it. And then when looking for colleges, when I was looking to Colgate and Colgate Rugby, I loved their community and their family and how much intensity they have, but they also keep a rounded and amazing program going. So that's why I chose Colgate.
So as you can see, they're earning their paychecks today.
This is awesome. So, excuse me. So obviously one of the reasons, that I picked this kind of specific panel was I really feel like sometimes the smaller schools, the smaller colleges and universities get overlooked, by students that are thinking, I want to play competitive rugby, and they feel like it's only going to be at maybe a larger university. And here's 3 really good examples of really competitive programs. And so with that in mind, I wanted to see, we'll go to Coach Brown, then Coach Wollen, and then back to Coach Chapman. If you could maybe just give us some background about what your rugby program looks like, basically, what the typical maybe experience might look like, what the team makeup is, those sorts of things. So for students that are watching, they're thinking, is this a good fit for me? Like, what are some of the kind of ways you would describe your team to a high school player or their family?
So I'd always tell recruits this, because if you're going to go to a high standard academic institution, you better make sure that you've chosen it for that reason. The rugby should be the icing on the cake, because if you sustain an injury or for some reason things don't work out like you wanted them to, you're going to be pretty miserable and have to think about transferring. And by the way, ladies from Colgate, that transfer window is still there just in case. No, I'm kidding. I'm sure that's an NCAA violation.
Yeah,
but anyway,
I saw their majors, Tony. I don't think you have an astrophysics at Vassar.
I'm sure we were the first college in the world in America to have an observatory. Anyway, I'm sure we got some sort of connection with the higher authorities. Anyway, so what is our rugby program like? So recruits should come here because they want to be challenged by the academics. They want to be a part of the academic framework. And then rugby, obviously, we think it's a wonderful experience because it can be, like those young ladies spoke to, a very, very defining part of their college experience. They get to represent their college. They get to feel proud about it. They're also in an environment where it's probably a little different than most varsity sports, where you have players and people on your team who have not played before. And so it sort of has that sense of family. We're going to help you get through. We're going to nurture you through. We're going to teach you this game. And I think Vassar, I'm sure Claremont and Colgate are all the same in that regard, that we're keen to teach anyone and everyone. So our program, I'm sure we'll get into some details, but we used to play at Division I level. And what I tell people now, with the sort of absolute smorgasbord of NCR and USA Rugby and NERA and Division I, Division II, and fall championships and spring championships, all that going on, it's not so much about where the good teams are in terms of results. It's what's going to fit you as a person. So I really would encourage people, and I know it's difficult for the foreign students, but to visit, and I know it's been difficult over COVID, but you should visit the campus, get to talk to the captains, talk to students. That's a great move, Dave, bringing those kids, those students. So I've got one downstairs, but she's working. So I would say that what the program looks like is very typical in that it is a very strong sense of community. Where we like to think we're highly competitive. We now play at Division II, but we still play Division I teams. We play NERA teams. We play anyone, anytime. So although we now play Army's JV team, because it's a little,
wow.
I mean, we could play the Army first team, and we'd give them a game for 20 minutes, but then it might get a bit ugly. So
can I ask you to elaborate a little bit on, is it a varsity team? Is it a club team? Do you practice every day? Like what would a student maybe expect if they were on your team?
Right. Now, so we fall in that sort of gray area of, we're not full varsity, but we're not just club. So we're treated like a varsity program in every respect with regard to uniforms, buses, meals, practice times, access to facilities, access to sports medicine, and scheduling of any kind, all that's supported by the college. The only thing we don't get, and that's why I'm here tonight, is that I don't get to submit a list of the players that I've been recruiting to admissions.
Yeah.
So whereas a varsity team could say, these are 10 people that we've talked to extensively, and this is why we want them, that helps their application. Everyone still has to be within the framework of academic qualifications. So we call it a varsity club. And I think Penn State has it, they call it intercollegiate. So they're in that sort of middle tier. And actually that's probably a pretty good niche for rugby. Now, having said that, I will just, I'll get off the soapbox in a minute, but I do understand that going varsity has other benefits. And if we could get 40 programs, then I think sport would explode over here.
Yeah.
No,
there's actually, I think, and I'll let Coach Wollen and Coach Chapman talk too, but I actually think there's a lot more programs that are in this kind of, when I do my College 101 webinar, which folks can watch, I mean, there's definitely, rugby is one of those rare sports that kind of has the three kind of tiers, like you have or separate groups, or you have club, you have the varsity club, which is more of a hybrid, and then you have the varsity program. So perfect. Coach Wollen, what about you?
Yeah, so I have to start with like what the 5 colleges are.
Oh yes, perfect.
Because and the joke is you'll never figure out if you're lost unless you see some student in the wrong sweatshirt walking by. But when you cross a road, you've changed campuses. That's a hard and fast rule. But you have Pomona, which is a traditional liberal arts college. You have Claremont McKenna, which is another traditional liberal arts college with strengths in economics and international relations. Scripps is a all women's college. You have Pitzer, which is a little bit more progressive than the other 3 liberal arts colleges. And then you have Harvey Mudd, which is Caltech surrounded by 4 liberal arts colleges. That's the best way to describe it. So for anyone out there thinking about any sorts of major or any sorts of academic program, we have it on this campus. To answer we are not a varsity program. We're not even in the band of competitive club or club, but we get great support from the 2 academic programs. Yes, 5 colleges, 2 athletic departments. So there are actually 2 football stadiums on our campus, although it's Division III football. So it's like, a stand and a dog on the sideline. So that does create some challenges, but we navigate those pretty well. We do fall under, we have a dedicated field for us. Much like Coach Brown, I don't have any hooks and saves or anything at the admissions office. However, we do have a relationship with a few of the admissions offices where if they have a rugby player, they sometimes call to ask to explain what something means. In other words, like this person says that they're a USA Eagle. We have no idea what that means. We thought the Eagles were in Philadelphia. And so I will get that phone call and have to explain. And then they'll be like, have you talked to this person? Generally answers yes. And so that does help some in the admissions process. Much like Coach Brown, we're in Division II. I know it's a smorgasbord of alphabet soup out there in rugby organizations. Right now, we are an NSCRO-sized school. I think Colgate, we saw you at the NSCRO Sevens, 4 or 5 years ago in Pittsburgh, but we decided to move up Division II. And we're probably one of the smaller schools in Division II. If you had to ask one of our opponents or somebody on campus, they probably say that we're a very intelligent team, a very fast team, and also probably a very small team, but very hardworking as well. We play both 15s and 7s. I know Colgate, again, you won the national championship a few years ago in that, and we really try to outwork the other team when we play them. In our league, we have anywhere from Cal States with 15,000 commuter students up to UCs, which have 25,000 students who are on campus. So it is a very interesting rugby environment we find ourselves in, but sometimes that's more fun that way.
And I'll come back to Coach Brown to kind of answer this too. So when you're in season, how often are you practicing? Like, what is the commitment level like for the players on your team?
Yeah, so we and our main season, which is the spring, and I know with snow on the ground where you are right now, that seems crazy. But the hottest month in LA County is actually September, which is one thing not many people are aware of. So we practice twice a week for 2 hours. And then there's a mandatory weightlifting session that usually runs about an hour and 15 minutes on one of the off days. And then generally the players will meet on their own to work out for 1 or 2 other days of the week. And then there's generally a game on Saturday, and then rinse and repeat for the next week. Out of season, it's very close to that. We probably about 75% of my players did not play rugby in high school. And so our fall is dedicated almost to teaching the game. And generally we have a roster of about, at a low ebb of about 28 and a high ebb or a high of about 40 at any one time. And some of the practices in September have 60 or 70 players just trying the game out. Tony?
So we practice 3 days a week. The Friday is just more of a sort of run through. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, about 2 hours, sometimes 90 minutes, depending on, we try to keep quality. We're very lucky at Vassar because we're part of the varsity setup. We have a strength and conditioning coach, and we have access to the varsity weight rooms. So they get they're asked to lift once a week during the regular season. And then now where we're off, they're going in 3 times, 4 times a week. But they do that on their own schedule because they have what they call open lifts. So they just go in, maybe 4 or 5 of them. We don't necessarily lift all on block as a team. Just like Evan, we play 15s and 7s. We play 15s in the fall, get about 12 to 15 games in. And then we're concentrating almost exclusively on 7s this spring. It's the first time. We think it's a good sort of rebound from COVID because a lot of programs lost players. And so we won't have these situations where a team can't get 15 together, but they can generally get 7 to 10. So we think that everyone will show up, and even if they don't, we'll still be able to do 7s games. So we've got a lot of mini tournaments. You'll have 4 teams come to a field. You'll start at 12, finish by 4, just play round robin A and B sides of 7s. And that way we don't impose on the referees any longer than we would if it was an A-B game, of 15s. So it's very, very similar. And obviously some players take it more seriously and they do more workouts, and we provide video after every game. It's sometimes got a commentary. Sometimes I put an audio over it and do a bit of coaching. But again, they can watch that in their own time. And we clip the film so that they only get the playing time. So it's only 40 minutes, 40 to 42 minutes of tape. So.
Great. I have a question for you, but I want to go to Coach Chapman first, then I'm going to come back. So Coach Chapman, what about you? Can you share a little bit more about what and actually you've got athletes with you. So I mean, if they want to share a little bit more about what the rugby experience is like out, as a player.
Oh, 100%. So what I'll do, a little bit about Colgate, and then I think the prospects would like to hear these ladies speak. But so Colgate University, we're in central New York. It's a beautiful campus. It's a highly competitive environment academically, which is it's again, it's a unique situation as academically you are challenged on a daily basis, but ultimately, again, we look to provide a balanced experience. We are a NCR Division I club. We finished in the, I think, top 8 this year, ladies. Y'all did. I just watched. But we are. I think we're in a similar situation as Vassar. As it's, we are, as everybody at the university says, we're not varsity, but we're not club. We're kind of in the middle there. And ultimately now we're making that push through our different stakeholders at the university and through our alumni, where they're now making a significant push to ensure that we have all the amenities necessary, which currently our pitch at grass pitch located on the entrance of the campus, one of the first things you see, international level, international size. So you can imagine how the pride that we take in representing the university whenever we have a match. We have a strength and conditioning coach who will actually be here in about 40 minutes to talk to the ladies about what the program is going to be like this semester. We have access to athletic trainers as well, with the goal obviously being ensuring a highly competitive but safe environment. So that's the things that we strive for. Typically in the we play 15s in the fall, and we follow that up with a 7 season in the spring. We've had some success in the past several years competing in Nescro in the 7 circuit and 15s, but we've taken the leap this year to ensure we continue our growth and our progression as players and as a program. Yeah, I also like to kind of resonate with what Tony was saying as a player looking to go to college. I mean, it's really a matter of the individual and the fit for you. And one of the best things I can recommend, similar to Tony, is visit campus. Visit all the campuses you can, as best you can. Obviously, current travel restrictions. However, it's a matter of how you feel on campus, because ultimately you're choosing a home for 4 years, and it's an informative time of your life. So trust your instinct, trust yourself, and be sure to ask the questions that you need in order to get the information that you need. But that's enough of me talking. We have 3 here. Kick it over to Sophie to kind of talk about her experience and why.
So I was, as I said before, I didn't start playing rugby until my freshman year. So I chose Colgate because of the school itself. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school, so athletics was a really big part of my life, just growing up. But I fell in love with Colgate as soon as I visited campus. I just thought it was so beautiful. And my time here, I have learned so much about myself as a person and just intellectually grown so much, to the point where I look at myself 4 years ago as like a freshman. I think of myself now, and I think of myself as a completely different person. My professors have mentored me to the point where I am very sad to see them go as their time as visiting professors are gone.
She's going to graduate school here, so it doesn't matter. She'll be here another year.
I'm going to graduate school at Colgate still, so I still will be with a lot of my professors, but so many of them have challenged me to think in different ways and view the world in a different way. And it's such a special thing to sort of take with me. And so while I came to Colgate because of the school itself, I ended up finding rugby with it. And I was able to marry a great part of my past life in high school with a big push on athletics and bring it to Colgate. And I got to use the best of both worlds. I got a great education, really incredible education, which I'm so lucky to have. I've had a great 4 years of athletic experience with Coach Chapman and the rest of my teammates. So it's been really special.
Great. Can one of you talk a little bit about, I don't know if you were about to, but similar to what the other coaches said, just kind of what your typical kind of season looks like?
Yeah, so like Coach Chapman said before, we have both 15s and 7s. So in the fall, we usually have about 4 practices a week, usually an hour and a half. And then on the weekends, Saturdays primarily, or Sundays, we have a game almost every weekend. This year, because of COVID, it did get kind of scrambled a bit, but then again, it's COVID.
Yeah.
And in the springtime, 7s, we train a little bit less just because of the snow and whatnot outside, but we train as much as we can in our indoor and sometimes outdoor facilities. That's 2 to 3 times a week. And then there's more lifts implemented in the springtime to really help us build because of the cold weather months and whatnot. And then we play in various spring tournaments with local upstate New York teams that are around us.
You got to be specific with upstate, because technically Tony's in upstate at Vassar. We're in central New York.
In central New York.
Well, I think we're the mid-Hudson Valley. We're nowhere near Albany.
Almost to Canada.
So I want to jump in here a little bit. Oh, sorry. Did I interrupt? Was there one more? Did you want to say something? Sorry.
What would you like to say? Why did you choose Colgate?
I chose Colgate because it had everything I wanted, basically. It had an amazing education, as Sophie was saying, but also so I could have I knew I wanted to go into astrophysics. I knew that was something I was predominantly looking into, and Colgate was one of those schools that had the majors that I wanted and professors who were absolutely incredible. But then another aspect that I really wanted out of college was to be a part of a rugby program and to continue playing rugby, because I did have that experience in high school and I absolutely fell in love with rugby the moment I started playing it. So I knew it had to be part of my college experience. So when I first reached out to Coach Chapman and some of the captains, they were telling me all this information, everything, how amazing their program is, and I just instantly fell in love with it. And I knew I had to go to Colgate to just be a part of this incredible team. They just seemed to have everything I wanted, and it has literally been the best year and a half.
So as you can imagine, we do a great job brainwashing.
So something I wanted to jump in here and just kind of say, because I think all 3 of you have really commented on obviously the fact that Oh, hang on, let me just change this to view, just so I can see everyone. That you don't, because you're not a varsity level team, you don't have like official like spots, right? Which some of the varsity programs can say, okay, we've got 10 spots, and if you've met these academic requirements and those sorts of things, we can support you. Now, from my point of view, and when I talk to families, I still think it's important, especially for schools like yours, to connect with coaches, number one, for them, right, to make sure that it's a good fit, that sort of thing. But also when they are applying, even if there isn't official like admission influence there, it can still be helpful for things like essays when they ask, why are you applying to Pomona, or why are you applying to Vassar, or why are you applying to, Chapman, Colgate. Oh my gosh, I'm sure you hear that all the time. You're applying to Colgate. They have the, like, why are you applying here? Students can then say, well, I've been in contact with Coach Brown since I was a freshman, and I visited and I met captains, like you said, at Colgate and, Claremont McKenna, and that can still be helpful. It will still show colleges that you've done a little bit of work and that you're invested in the school. You're not just, picking schools, out of a hat. Right. So I've certainly seen that is that can be valuable in an application. So for many of those students that might be thinking, oh, okay, they all just said they're not varsity. So, do I, should I reach out and those sorts of things? I would still encourage it. And with that in mind, because the students just mentioned this too, when they had first reached out to the coach, tell me a little bit about what, I guess at this point, like what tips or anything you would recommend high school students do or don't do, or anything like that when they are reaching out to you, things that can help, maybe encourage you to, I don't know, like say something nice to.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
I'll,
You froze.
Yeah.
No, it was us.
Coach Chapman, did you already have a?
Sorry, yeah, I'd like to hop in there on that one. So yeah, obviously it's a tough environment, right? College applications, it's not the most pleasant time of your life, as it's immensely stressful. However, echoing what you said there, yeah, reach out. We through our website, we have a questionnaire that we recommend individuals filling out. And ultimately the goal there is to immediately, we have somebody respond, connecting them with myself, connecting them with some of our VP of outreach, which is Ms. Tranquil over here. And ultimately, again, the matter is the sooner you reach out, the better that we can facilitate and work with you. And the goal there, of course, is to ensure that you're putting yourself in the best position possible. Now, a major component of that is visiting campus and being in the environment that you want to attend, having feet on the ground there. On top of that as well, we have the luxury of working with some alums that have significant experience in the admissions office, to where we connect them with these individuals, and essentially they're creating one, a relationship, getting to know the individual. Two, they're assisting them with their application, their essays, kind of consulting with them a bit, and then ultimately ensuring that they are following through. And I think that's the main piece of the puzzle that for us is that a matter of following through and communication, ensuring that we are both working together for that process, for the same purpose.
Coach Brown or Coach Wollen, any thoughts about helping students that are like maybe they're juniors right now and they're just starting to think through the process? If they were to reach out to you, what are some things that is helpful for them to know?
Your face looks pregnant, Tony. So were you gonna?
I was gonna let you. So I definitely think anyone you're talking to, Karen, needs to reach out to the rugby coaches, because we can put you in. Not only can we give you an overview of the rugby program, but pretty much now we understand that this is you're looking at a college or a university, and you need to know about that university. And to that end, you probably would be best served by the coach putting you in contact with some of the current players. These are, a sophomore or someone in the same area of study or interest. In fact, young lady I spoke with this morning in Hong Kong, she's got some interest in psychology, and I'm going to put her in. We talked, and I said, well, I will make sure that a couple of my students, one current, one a graduate, they will contact you and they will tell you about their Vassar experience. So even though we may not have the influence with admissions, we can still help you get a better picture of the school. And I mean, I think all three institutions are excellent academic institutions and great communities. So now it's a matter of, is it the fit for you?
And I mean, especially in our unique situation here in Claremont, I mean, I have people players contact me and are like, I want to go to Pomona. And I'm like, have you thought about Claremont McKenna? Because you're going to major in economics. And they look at you like, what's Claremont McKenna? And you're like, it's a school that's 100 yards away from Pomona. Like, right, to just go north on this road. And it's, so and I echo, visit, and contact to the coach.
Yeah, and something I'll point out too, because I've definitely recommended students to the Claremont Colleges. One of the things that I often get questions about is Scripps College, which is a women's college.
Yep.
And I've had young women that are a little bit like, I'm not quite sure, it's not maybe the cool thing to do these days. But I've had lots of young women that do go to Scripps or other women's colleges and have great experiences. So, if there are young women, obviously, that are watching this and that are considering it or never thought about it, I would definitely look into it, look into what a women's college might offer, as well as obviously with Coach Evans' programs, but there's multiple schools that you can look at.
Yeah. And that is a very interesting women's college, it's on a campus with 4 other colleges. The joke on Scripps used to have a T-shirt 2 years ago that says we're the only women's college that has a football team. But it is something you should see before you buy, because it might be perfect for you or it might not.
Yeah. Actually, okay. Well, I think this would actually apply to all 3 of you. Thinking about the student athletes that you have. This is a 2-part question. And actually, maybe whoever wants to jump in first, and maybe it's going to be Colgate's. But what kind of students are successful at your institution? And then also, what kind of student wouldn't be successful or wouldn't like your school? Because I think that's an important question as well. Because sometimes it's like, well, everyone will love it here. It's great, but like, what are some things you can think of that might help students understand? It may not be a good fit.
Absolutely, no. It's one of the major things at Colgate is that you don't have to have a major right off the bat. I think it's your sophomore year where you have to declare. Now, that's not to say that people that we have individuals that show up and all of them show up and I don't know what I'm going to do. There's obviously I think there are specific majors such as finance, economics is a major one at Colgate, and then we have a lot of success in different areas. As you see, we have 3 individuals that are in different majors. But it's for me looking at an individual that's going to be open-minded in their approach. Because with a liberal arts background or a liberal arts education, it's going to put you in a position not to just focus on a singular major or singular industry, if you will. And then you have to be driven. I mean, the reality is that it's a competitive academic environment, and that's and one of the things I stress to our recruits is that that it is that for sure. And obviously, with the young people here, that we're trying to provide that information and show that perspective. And then the last thing I would say is be fearless in your curiosity. You're going to be put in classes that you probably don't care about. A story I have about a kid that graduated a couple years ago, he was finance all the way, economics, end up minoring in religion because he took a religion class and absolutely loved it. Does that have any bearing on his economics future? Probably not, but it's a great story to tell. And that's the beautiful thing about a liberal arts education is the spectrum of classes and the opportunities you have available. And not to mention a little plug here, the study abroad program is a massive component of the curriculum here. So again, it's for me, I'd say open, driven, and fearless in your curiosity.
Any thoughts about who wouldn't like Colgate, who probably would not be happy there?
Well, that's a great question, and the reality is we've had individuals in that situation as well. I think it's a matter of understanding the environment. It is a small college, less than 3,000 students, so the interaction that you have with professors, I think the average is 13-1, something like. And so when you get to your major, you're going to be localized in a way with whatever industry you're looking to get into. So you really can't hide. You know, at a Penn State, or I went to the University of Mississippi, and that's considered a small SEC school, and there's just about 30,000 students there. So I could hide as big as I am, but at Colgate, it's very difficult to do that, and it's going to spark and it's going to spark an opportunity for you to engage. So if you're not as active in that sense, it can become uncomfortable. But then again, I think our admissions office does a phenomenal job of providing that picture for our incoming recruit, because ultimately, I think the graduation rate is close to 96%. So although there are some that don't enjoy that type of environment, more often than not, they come around, they figure out a way, they figure out the niche, and yeah, it's about being driven.
Great. Coach Tony, you wanna go? Like, what are?
I keep referring to Evan. I'm looking at his picture there, and I'm thinking, come on, Evan.
Well, we're staring at each other, so I'll flip a coin.
Sorry, I can direct a little better too. That's my fault.
Yeah, no.
This is like Hollywood Squares. Okay, I'll go next. So just very similar to Colgate in that you don't have to declare a major. And in fact, there are only 2 courses in your freshman year that you're required to take, and one you can test out of, which is a language. So the only course you're required to take as a freshman is a composition class. That means that you can sign up for a history 300 level. You could sign up to a chemistry 200 level class, depending on what your background is. And what that really means is that in those small classes, you might be a freshman, and within that class composition, there are going to be seniors and juniors, and they will defer to you for help. Oh gosh, I didn't really have a good time in that lecture. Can we meet later and discuss it? You seem to know what you're talking about. And what that sort of engenders is a real respect among students. And I was told that when I first came here 27 years ago. And actually, I do know it to be true now. so I actually always mention that to recruits if I remember. The bottom line is that it is a great learning environment. You'll get tons of support. It's a very liberal institution, but if I find someone who's got a conservative bent, I'm like, you need to come here. You need to come here and have that debate. You know, we don't want to have just one viewpoint on campus. So, you know, for me, it's about, you know, we're going to always be welcoming. Now, are there some students that don't fit? Yeah, I mean, sometimes there's a student that comes in and says, just isn't for me. And actually, probably the most rewarding thing I've ever had is a letter from those students saying, you know, if they played rugby, was I'm going to leave, but, you know, I just want you to know that rugby was the best part of the experience here. Yeah. So that's always like, oh, geez, now you're killing me. But so I think it's just great that you've got to, you know, as David said, you've got to come to the campus if you can and talk to the students. You know, well, before COVID, you would do overnight visits where you come in, you're basically a Vassar student for a day and a morning. You can go to a practice, you can go, you know, the professors are quite happy for you to just show up at the class. So you go into a class, you sit in on and you know, and you'll go with a student, you know, on the rugby team. So you go into a class, you get a real experience of what it's like to be a student here at Vassar. I mean, I'll give you the tour of the rugby fields and you know, I'll show you Rugby Central with all the, you know, team photos. But yeah, but ultimately you want to know what it's going to be like in the dorms. You want to know what it's like to be in the library. You want to know what the workload's like. You want to see the students. You want to see the animals in their environment.
Yeah.
Coach Wollen, what do you think?
I was going to echo what Coach Chapman said about, you know, again, liberal arts education, not many required classes. And then I remembered my Harvey Mudd engineering students, where it's a very programmed course of instruction all the way through. From what I've told, they like that. But, you know, I was a history major, so go figure. If I see a student, and this is more from my time working at Claremont McKenna, you know, I ran the ROTC program as an Army officer, and then when I retired, I ran the internship program. And by the way, if you're looking for your college to pay for your summer internship, Claremont McKenna funds about 55% of its student body every summer to do an internship. But if I saw someone who, it was more that, you know, Claremont McKenna was the number 9th ranked institution in, you know, according to US News and World Report, which is a, you know, 4th rate magazine, and everybody seems to be excited about. and they didn't get into the top 8, and so they went to the one at the top that they didn't really investigate. And so again, echoing what all 3 coaches have said and the 3 players have said, really know what you're going to and what environment you're getting yourself into. That's the most unhappy people that or very few. I mean, it is Southern California. It was 65 degrees out and sunny today. I see a couple of angry looks coming at me. We're used to that. But again, not fitting academically is the biggest problem you're going to have.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna kind of, am I muted? I want to make sure I wasn't muted. Something to keep in mind when students do go visit. I mean, a big reason for this is, if you're looking for a super urban experience with like, easy transportation or something, like there are tickets, like that's not what you're going to have. And I do have students, especially like if I have international students and they're looking for like an easy flight in and you're right at the campus, like some of these campuses might not be. So something that I recommend a lot of students, if you're interested in these schools on your own, maybe, without mom and dad's help, try to see like if I'm in Colorado and I want to get out to Colgate, how would I do that? What does the flight look like? Or how do I get to Vassar, and can I do that? What does that look like? And again, making sure that it's a good fit. I often have students on the East Coast that are like, I definitely want to go to California. And then they realize that, oh, this means my parents aren't going to get to watch me play, or it's going to be a longer travel, or vice versa. Students that are in California that are saying Northeast all the way, and then they don't think about winters. Okay, you got someone. So just really kind of taking all those things in, I think is really helpful. And every one of the coaches have said fit. And I think that's really important. I tell students all the time, this process of searching for colleges is a little bit like shopping, which I hate to do, but it's a little bit like, okay, you gotta go find a pair of jeans. Like, you're gonna spend time, right, trying them on. Or I told someone the other day, I was literally looking for sweatpants. And I looked at so many reviews about sweatpants on Amazon. And those are just for pants, right? And I know students will just pick colleges out of a hat, out of US News and World Report, not even looking at anything about the school. What are the majors? What is the graduation rate? What is the retention rate between freshman and sophomore year? So I think for students to really understand, like, if you're going to reach out to one of these coaches, also do your homework ahead of time. I wouldn't reach out to I don't know, Coach Brown and say, oh, I really want to do architecture, if they don't have an architecture program, right? So like really think about all of these things before you even reach out. I'm sure you all have gotten those emails of just, I'm really interested in the school. What kind of scholarship can you offer? Those sorts of things. And that's just, that's kind of not helpful. I have one last question to kind of wrap things up because we're kind of towards the end. If you were, this is maybe also just as a coach, maybe not specifically as a college coach, when you have players that are coming in that have played in high school, are there certain skills or things you wish they would spend more time thinking about or working on? So that like if they do show up at your program, what would be helpful for your program to know, right? So they're already in the high school program. What are some things they can do in this upcoming junior spring season? Should they be going to tournaments? Should they be going to camps? Like, what are some things they could be doing? And I'm actually just going to say, Coach Wollen, you go first, so we don't have that pause, and then we'll go to Coach Brown and then Coach Chapman. Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say again, with a team that is 75% not played high school rugby. What I need from my high school players is just raw knowledge of the game. And the best example, just know as much as you can, because you'll have instant cachet, you'll have instant credibility with your teammates when you say, I played for 4 years, or I did this, or I did that. And so just a basic, just knowing the sport. But the best example that I have of that is we had a player who would not have been recruited by anybody, played high school rugby for 3 years, but really wasn't, did not impress on tape. And then she came in and she was our best recruiter for 4 years. She loved the sport. She would walk in with like a new person or new 2 people, and I'd look at her and be like, Amanda, I see you've been to the weight room recently. And she's like, yes, I thought they want to play rugby. So maybe a knowledge of the sport, but also a knowledge of the culture, and then just a positive attitude. she graduated in 2020, and I miss her daily just because she was always smiling as she showed up to practice. And again, not the most physically gifted player, but knew the game, knew the culture, and was always going the extra mile to help out the club. Tony.
So obviously I echo that, but what I really want from a player coming in is that even though they played before and they have probably a base of knowledge, what I want them to do is be modest and supportive and understanding of those, our team culture and the other players, because you don't want people coming and say, well, this is how it's done.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, and then that can ruffle feathers. So really what they can do is they like Evan says, that they've got instant credibility because they've got some rugby background. That also puts pressure on them as well. Now they've got to perform, right? So just come in to enjoy your rugby, be supportive of everyone, be encouraging. And I agree with Evan that if as a recruiter, that they're often the best because they can speak to having done it as a high school student. Now they're talking to a freshman or a sophomore saying, why don't you come out for rugby? And they say, well, what do you mean? And they say, well, I did it for 3 years already. You're way behind the curve.
No,
Coach Chapman, anything?
absolutely. I'd love to talk. What's so funny? No.
Sorry, you're
so-
right. Out of line.
So ultimately, I think kids with a rugby experience, I mean, that's gold, right? And I think 10, 15 years ago, it was absolute gold. Now it's becoming more common, which is a beautiful thing. But I think it's something to come into a college rugby environment is similar to how I would recommend coming into it as a student. Be open, because how the style you played or what you knew or what you did in high school, it could be dramatically different, could be similar, but it's going to be from a different perspective. Something that I like to promote, that we like to promote, is a positive competition. Ultimately, it's a matter of it's an aggressive sport. It's a collision sport, right? And so understanding that you're going into it to compete, but at the end of the day, you're going to help them up, and you're going to be together. And as far as a skill, I think is just throwing this out there, footwork and collisions around the collision area. I think that would be massive. The more work that you have in that area and the breakdown, I think the more dynamic you can be in the collegiate game. But yeah.
Perfect. Well, so with that in mind, any last thoughts from the coaches for players that are watching this, or for parents that are watching this as well? Any last thoughts or tips that you want them to walk away with tonight? Also know that, when I send this out, you will include all of your links, all the contact information. So as you've all said, because we had a question about when is the ideal time, and I do want to address that for those that aren't on this live. And all the coaches said you can reach out at any point. So none of these programs are NCAA, so they're not bound by any contact rules or anything. If you're just curious and you're interested and you're a freshman, a sophomore, get in touch with the coaches and at least start building that relationship. So yeah, with that, any last thoughts before we kind of wrap things up, and thank everyone for their time this evening. Chapman, anyone? I'm sorry. No. Coach Brown, go for it.
I was just going to say it's a very confusing landscape with all those different organizations and spring and fall and all those different labels. So don't be shy about asking direct questions. Because ultimately all three of us are happy if people go to college and play rugby. Yes, we'd like to get people coming to our college, but I want people to go to good programs. I even said this morning to a prospective student. I said, look, there are some very good programs here. There's some really strong programs in this country that have got great coaches. And there are some that are not so good, but rather than say, well, I think they're terrible, I will just say, just ask the right questions of those other programs. So it wouldn't be a direct sort of insult to that program. It would just be make sure that you ask these questions. So feel free to reach out to, Evan, David, or myself. And, I'll say, and we know, we kind of get to know the scene because we're in it all the time. Mm-hmm. So, if you were looking for, a nursing program, which was very vocationally oriented and not quite so liberal arts, then there are schools that offer that might be a good fit. And some of the varsity programs are better than others. Some of them were added really solely just to solve a Title IX problem. Others were added with the genuine interest of developing a women's rugby program. And so I think they're all going in the right direction, but it's just going to take some programs longer.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's a matter of back to what we were talking about before. It's the collegiate landscape is changing, but ultimately the college application process is the primary concern for the individual, and ultimately it's a matter of choosing an institution or choosing a place. You're choosing a home, and I think that's important that you focus. And what Coach Brown's saying, I think, something to prepare yourself, parents as well. Typically, I like to have. Whenever we have a recruit taking the lunch, that way we can talk with the parents and talk with the players. And typically we have 1 or 2 student athletes with us to encourage that, because they get free food. But it's a matter of, we're here as a resource. I have zero issue with connecting student athletes with other coaches that I may know, because I've been blessed to meet with so many different coaches across the country that I feel as though they would do the same for me. So ultimately, if you're interested in college rugby and you reach out to any of us, I'm confident in the fact that we're going to be in it for the right reasons, which is for what's best for the student athlete. And something I say to every recruit: Colgate's not for everybody, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm happy to connect you with another coach or another institution of the program, if you do feel as that place is a home for you. So, I'm gonna be honest with every recruit and every parent. But at the end of the day, we're here as a service and as a resource, and happy to do whatever we can to support the individual.
Yeah. Man, you two are a tough act to follow. Like I had a whole checklist that I just ran down. I just have to cross everything off. So I would point out that these are 3 great options for everyone out there. But as to reiterate what Coach Chapman said, I get a lot of inquiries from students who are unsure of rugby in California or at the Claremont Colleges, and I have no problem handing a name over to coaches either in Division I or in my own league, because I'm more. Coming out of the pandemic, club rugby is going to have a rebuilding process of the next 2 or 3 years. But we've talked it through the last 53 minutes. Do your research about both the college and the rugby program. And rugby is an important part of your life, but it's not everything. I get a lot of students who, of the 20% of high school students who played rugby in high school, a lot of them come here for something else that the rugby met the minimum of what they wanted. We had a student who basically said, I want to write for a school newspaper. And I suspect if I played Division I, NERA rugby, I wouldn't be able to do that. I had another student. I have 3 students who are in an a cappella group. Everybody's got something that the rugby meets, but is also met somewhere on this campus. Yes, we have some of the best songs you will ever hear from my team, but I don't join in for obvious reasons. But yeah, do your research and find the right school for you, because it's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
And thanks again. Karen.
The last thing I was going to mention, because the thing I would say about these 3, and I said in the very beginning, right? There is a reason I picked these 3. Like, I love all 3 of your programs. I think for most students that I meet, when they're telling me they want to go to, an academic school, they want to play good rugby, like either all 3 or at least a couple of you are going to make that list. One of the things that does throw some families off is certainly the sticker price. And that's something that I do want to make sure, if you're starting to look, do not get thrown off by that. It is certainly just, it is a starting price that most families do not pay. All 3 also meet full demonstrated need. So if you are a family and you're like, I'm not sure, before you cross these colleges off your list, please make sure you go through your FAFSA, talk to, Vassar's financial aid or Colgate's financial aid or any of the 5 colleges. Make sure that that you actually know what it's going to cost before you say no to it. Because honestly, I've had families that go to one of your institutions, and it actually is either cheaper, more reasonable than going to their local in-state university. So I think to be aware that your private universities and colleges often have deeper pockets, so they're able to do a lot more and meet those students' needs than the public ones, which are tied a lot more to like state funds and federal funds. So just make sure you don't get thrown off, because I unfortunately hear that all the time. The students are like, "Oh, I love that school, but there's no way my family can afford it." I'm like, wait. Maybe you can. Let's see. So make sure, and if you're not sure, talk to these coaches. I'm sure they'll put you in touch with the right people that can take a look, for you before you kind of make that choice on your own. Were you going to say something, Coach Brown? You look like.
Yeah, I was just going to say that all colleges are required to have a FinAid calculator on their website, and normally if people contact me, they'll give me a sort of prelim, like a ballpark sort of. If they want, I can take them through that process, because our coaches do that so that people have an idea of what their financial aid will be. So then all of a sudden you're not looking at the sticker price anymore. You're looking at the price that's going to be close to what you would pay.
Yeah, perfect.
I can tell you from my own personal experience, going to a school very much like these and not paying a lot for it. Most students aren't paying the vast majority aren't paying the full sticker price. And many of them are not paying a lot. So do your research.
100%. To echo those thoughts, it's the price tag is massive, but at the end of the day, the no loan initiative that we've implemented, and the fact that we're looking at the way that we can, we have a birthday party tonight. Sorry.
Amazing team.
The concern for most parents, the number one concern is cost. How much is it going to cost them? But at the end of the day, asking the questions and getting the full information, you'd be surprised how much a really good education will cost you in the end.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Thank you, everyone, again for joining us. Like I said, I will share this out with everyone, and I'll share all the contact information for all your programs. Thank you to the coaches and the players for taking the time, and I hope we'll be in touch.